I really started many years ago as a preschool teacher, and then became very interested in children who had diverse abilities. I had a child in my classroom who was really struggling, and we engaged a specialist, and I watched her do the screening and assessment of this child, and I said, oh, I want to learn that, I want to do that.
Hello, and welcome to Within These Halls, a podcast that tells the story of the Research Institute at Western Oregon University. The Research Institute, or TRI, is a research and project-based organization dedicated to the fields of education, health, and human services. My very first guest on Within These Halls is not only an internationally recognized expert on early childhood development, she's also just a great person and someone whom I greatly admire. It was terrific sitting down with her, and I really think you're going to enjoy my conversation with Dr. Patricia Blasco.
My degree was really pre-K through 6th grade, and I taught all the way up to middle school, but substituting, that kind of thing, and I really realized my love was early childhood. So I went on and got my Ph.D. in early intervention, early childhood special education at the University of Virginia. They have what was called the Virginia Infant Programs, and these were programs that were pretty much pulled together by service providers and families, because at that time there were no services for infants and toddlers.
Just to clarify, when Dr. Blasco mentions at that time, she's referring to the mid-1980s.
So it was really being on the cusp of change, in the sense of people coming together and writing policy, writing curriculum, and developing this basically out of the best they could do with young children, and trying to figure out what can we do for them. So I went from there to kind of doing that work, and then I did my postdoc training at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, and that's where I really worked with some of the top researchers in the field of early intervention. A lot of the original curriculum came from very therapeutic kind of interventions, but sort of became more family-oriented, with the partnerships between service providers and families, where people realize that you don't teach in a vacuum. So when children are learning skills, that family connection is so very important. It was a trajectory for me where I just saw this infant toddler curriculum being developed and became very interested in participating in it.
In 2011, Dr. Blasco became project director of Project PEPI, which stands for Preparing Early Childhood Professionals for Inclusion. The mission of Project PEPI was to provide curriculum to community colleges throughout the state of Oregon, in an effort to better prepare future educators for including children with disabilities into their classrooms. This is just one example of the incredible work Dr. Blasco has done in her life, a life which has been committed to leveling the playing field for children with disabilities. Here's Dr. Blasco discussing Project PEPI.
Project PEPI really was conceived and developed by several people. Tom Udell, Roxana Marvin, Gary Glazenepp, Tori Templeman were folks who I met here at TRI, and they had great ideas about training, and so this whole idea of perhaps providing technical assistance to community colleges came up as a grant opportunity, and we all thought, yeah, let's go for it. And so we submitted the grant and received it, and we were very excited. Gave us the opportunity to work with community colleges, and what we found was that the community colleges, some of them were very aware of children with special needs, because they have received what's the National Association for the Education of Young Children certification for community colleges. And to do that, you really have to be able to say that you are not just gearing your program to early childhood, you're also very inclusive of children who have disabilities or children who are gifted. So you want to cover all, basically what we call diverse abilities. So we had some faculty who were sort of at that end of the spectrum. Then we had other faculty who were still struggling with understanding how they could fit children with disabilities into their programs and into their classrooms. And so that sort of was the challenge at the beginning. People were very receptive, though. We didn't have anyone saying, no, I don't want to do this, or no, I'm not going to participate. And they were very willing to give us their syllabi so that we could look at it and see, sort of make some judgments about how inclusive their programs were for children with disabilities.
And what was missing.
Yeah, that was our intent. But what happened was, and this is sort of unique to Oregon, is many of them have adjunct faculty who teach courses. And so all of the syllabi are different. The important thing was core curriculum, which is what they call their core content. And that had to have certain curriculum that you covered, or certain developmental theories that you covered. And so that's where we realized we needed to have an impact. So what we started doing was developing our own syllabi for them to use as models. So they could go online, say they were teaching a course on motor development, and they could go online and find our course that we developed, which would include atypical development and would include resources on how to work with children with, say, cerebral palsy. So that would be a perfect example. So we put together a module on cerebral palsy, and they can use that module to teach their students.
Dr. Blasco's next big undertaking was Project Peace, or Promoting Inclusion in Early Childhood Educators, which was awarded a 5-year grant from the U.S. Department of Education in 2013. The aim of Project Peace is to, as Dr. Blasco puts it, recruit, retain, and graduate early childhood education and early intervention scholars, providing students in these fields the training and support they need to better include children with disabilities.
One of the other advantages of having Project PEPI, where we were working with community college faculty, it also helped with articulation between those community colleges and Western Oregon University. Project Peace basically was a bridge. Wouldn't it be great if we could bring in students who had their associate level degree and then went on and received their bachelor's and their early intervention, early childhood special ed endorsement.
Project Peace is a collaboration between TRI and Dr. Cindy Ryan in the College of Education at Western Oregon University.
So that's how Project Peace came about, and that has been really exciting too, because we are doing many of the things that we are doing with Project PEPI, in the sense that in our coursework we are teaching blended practices, which means not just early childhood, but early childhood, early intervention, early childhood special ed. So if I teach a class on motor development, I'm teaching typical motor development, what children do, the sequences they go through, and I'm also teaching what happens when it's atypical. And then how do you accommodate for the child in your classroom who has atypical motor development? Fulfilling for us to know that the students we're sending out are prepared in both, as opposed in the past, where you had preparation in one area, say early childhood, but not in the other. And so your attitude would be, well, that's not my child. That's not my child, that's for the specialist. These are my children. I would say my life has been dedicated to resolving that, so that we understand they're all your children. It's your classroom. They all are your children.
I owe a huge thank you to Dr. Blasco for agreeing to sit down with me and to discuss her incredible work. For more information on that work, as well as for more information about the Research Institute in general, visit triwou.org. I'm Nathaniel Dunaway, and this has been Within These Halls. Thanks so much for listening.